Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start with a story about how some people from Wisconsin entertain themselves in the winter. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. It's too loud when I snowblow your sidewalk? Okay. I have a sweet snowblower and I love to help out my neighbors by doing the whole block. I'm that guy. After a moderate snow a few years ago, 6 inches, my neighbor told me that he's very sensitive to noise and not to snow blow in front of his house. So later that same winter, we got 17 inches. I got every house on the block front and back except for his. Even better, he was out of town. The weather warmed slightly for an afternoon, then dropped again, so his 17 inches of snow became a wall-to-wall glacier. I live in Wisconsin. This is how we entertain ourselves in the winter. And our second story. Don't want to fix my IT issue? Well, I think it's time for a new CTO. I just want to state that this IT issue is going to blow some people's effing minds. The security flaw that this presented was nothing short of incredible, and the fact that we never had a major security breach is astounding. It truly is. The flaw, you may ask? Everyone in the entire company password was the same password. Yes, folks, you read that right. Every single password to every single employee login was the same password. It was like this before I joined the company and for quite a few years after. Until, well, enjoy the story. Now, what about the username? That must be the trick, right? Oh yeah, that was the trick. The username was the employee email address. I did point out this flaw to my management and their response was, "That's not our area to be concerned about. So whatever, it paid well, I'll do my job." Then one day we had a Windows update which caused a piece of the software I used at work to break. I submitted a help ticket, and after escalating this issue, I got to the CTO. It wasn't a huge company. The CTO said, "I don't want to spend the time fixing this. Use this workaround," to which I pointed out the workaround slows things down, makes my job harder, and this Windows update has to affect more than just me. I was told to suck it up. Now, at the same time, the CEO was the son of the founder and a bit of a F-wit. I legit feel at this point in time he was just collecting a paycheck and letting everything run on auto and didn't pay attention. But I was mad at the CTO for brushing me off, so I penned an email to the CEO. It was a short email. I simply said, "I discovered a massive security flaw that could potentially expose us to huge liabilities. When would be a good time to discuss this?" The response? "What security flaw?" I decided to demonstrate the flaw. I picked 2 random salespeople. I didn't know them. I got their username and I logged into their systems. I pulled 2 random customers' personal information, the kind of information that would have easily allowed me to commit identity fraud, pull out credit in their names, etc. All kinds of bad stuff. I emailed the CEO and I explained anyone who knows the URL to log into our system can log into anyone's account, pull up customers' information, and everyone has the same password. To prove this, I logged into 2 employees' random accounts and pulled 2 different customers' profiles, and I've attached them. One single disgruntled employee could screw us over. 25 minutes later, my phone rings. It was the CEO. He was nice, very interested in how I did this. This guy isn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, and I pointed out the flaw in plain English and the liability that it presents to him. I walked him through the process of hacking my own account, as he called it. I'd hate to call it hacking because it was so easy. Now it dawned on the CEO that this liability was huge. I pointed out in our conversation a single upset employee could destroy us. The fact that it hadn't happened already is nothing short of a miracle. I get told they want me to present this to the executive team so they can discuss a solution. Honestly, the solution is effing obvious. So a day later, we have a conference call. It's the CEO, the CTO, the COO, the CFO, the company lawyer, the senior VP, etc. on the call, and I demonstrate the flaw and lay out how I, as a layperson with very little IT background, is able to figure this out. It's incredible that we have this flaw. Everyone is in agreement that it's a huge issue, except the CTO. The CTO gets very upset at me, wants me fired for hacking the system. He says that per our employee handbook, what I did is a fireable offense. I point out that I'm not abusing this loophole and I'm only doing it to expose the flaw because I care about the company and I think this is something that needs to be brought forward. I point out that a former disgruntled employee could log into an account and steal customers' personal information and that if they were traced back to us, the liability would be huge. I could tell our corporate attorney agreed with me and was shocked at what I was demonstrating. The CTO pointed out that former employees' usernames are disabled, to which I pointed out every employee username is their email address. It would be trivial for a former disgruntled employee to use a different employee's email address that they remember to log in, and since every password is the same, they don't even have to guess. The CTO points out that we would know who did it because of the IP address. I pointed out that VPNs are indeed a thing. The corporate attorney actually wasn't familiar with what VPNs do, and I explained it. And what shocked me, if the whole time the only person in the meeting who didn't agree with this flaw needs to be changed was the CTO. The CEO made it clear that this issue would be fixed by the end of business that day, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts about this. The meeting ended. After the meeting, the CTO called me. Privately, he was PO'd. I just exposed his incompetence because the system was his design. The decision for everyone to have the same password was his decision, and I know why he did it. He did it because he was effing lazy. And I said to the CTO, "You're a crappy CTO. You shouldn't be in the position you are, and you're lazy. You should have found a better solution for my help ticket." He stops and asks, "So is this about your stupid help ticket?" I go, yes it is." He laughs and says he's going to have me fired, and I laugh and go, "I'm pretty sure someone's getting fired. I'm also super confident that it's not going to be me." Well, sure enough, later that day, we get an email stating that everyone was going to change their passwords to something unique. A week later, the CEO announced the old CTO stepped down to spend more time with his family. On the first day of the new CTO's tenure, he sent me an email telling me he wanted to personally work on my help ticket and find a solution around the Windows update, which I'm pleased to say he did. And I later had conversations with our attorney at a meeting. We legit never had a security breach, which is simply astounding. The attorney admitted that it was just plain dumb luck on our part, and if we would have had a security breach, it would have been very bad for us. And our last story. Don't do unauthorized surgeries on your patients, and don't treat your employees like crap. It'll cost you. My mom has been a nurse for almost a decade now. 8 of those years, she worked at the same hospital on one of the most busy floors to work on until she finally had enough of the crap poor management. Before she left, though, she exacted an amazing feat of revenge that got the hospital into a lot of trouble. As I said, Mom worked on what was probably the busiest floor in the whole hospital. This particular floor is severely understaffed, and many times there were only 3 or 4 nurses working, each one having to care for 10 or 11 patients each, sometimes even more. Lots of times it would be pretty much impossible to get everything done in a 12-hour shift when you have to pass meds, tend to, and chart for that many patients. My mom is a great nurse. She's extremely smart, a hard worker, and she really does love her job. Usually, she would be the first nurse to get done with all of her work and then help other nurses with their workload so everyone could leave on time. Her coworkers there loved her like no one's business. This kind of work ethic landed her a position as a charge nurse. As a charge nurse, it was her job to see that all or most of the paperwork is done properly and faxed, that nurses were getting their charts in on time and passing meds when need be. It was her job to interact with the doctors and fill orders and direct in case of an emergency. Now, at this particular hospital, there are a lot of residents who are fresh from med school and have very little experience in a real hospital setting. Sometimes they would give orders that were unnecessary or not the best solution for the health of a patient. Mom, being so respected, would oftentimes coax the doctors into changing their orders to something more suitable, as she has a lot of real work experience. But then some doctors would disagree and tell the nurses to go on ahead with his instruction. Then when something goes wrong, the blame would go on Mom, and there was really nothing she could do about it. She finally had enough when a doctor ordered a heart catheter on a patient who was extremely drunk and in no state of mind to make decisions for himself. My mom tried everything to get the doctor to not go through with it because the man didn't really need to have a heart catheter at all. This doctor was all the time ordering ridiculous treatments for patients because that's how he makes his money. He convinces this drunk man to sign the surgery papers and sends him to OR, where he was basically receiving an unauthorized surgery, seeing as his decision-making was impaired. After that, my mom decided to start applying for jobs at other hospitals because she couldn't stand to see any more patients being abused and mistreated by the place that's supposed to have their health and best interest. When she finally landed another RN position, she gave her notice and worked to the end of her term. After she received her last check, they tried to tell her she was overpaid and she would have to pay back some of the money. Obviously, she didn't, and was appalled at the way they were treating her after 8+ years of loyalty to the hospital. So she started plotting her revenge. Before quitting, she contacted JCAHO, Joint Commission on Accreditation of Healthcare Organizations, and told them about the unauthorized surgery. This is a big no-no. It's something that can make a hospital lose their accreditation and be closed down permanently. She gave them the name of the patient, the file number, the case number, the name of the doctor, and the name of all the other parties involved in the surgery. She was very thorough. The day after she quit, a close friend of hers that worked the same floor said that a JCAHO rep came and did some investigating, almost entirely unannounced. They do warn the hospital before they come, but never give them enough of a notice to change anything beforehand. About a week after their initial investigation, 1 or 2 people had gone and interviewed staff and looked at medical records. They came back again. This time they came with a lot of people. They pulled every single file to review and see if any other sketchy practices had been performed under the radar. For every breach of HIPAA and OSHA protocol, they were fined thousands of dollars. The doctor and all staff involved in the cardiac catheter incident were fired, and the doctor lost his license and can never get it back. They threatened to close the hospital if the fines weren't paid, which added up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Of course, the family of the man found out about the surgery and sued the hospital. Spoiler, he won, and had to pay him off too. To this day, JCAHO visits the hospital frequently to make sure no more unethical practices happen again. Don't treat your nurses like crap, and don't treat your patients like crap, or it'll come back and bite you in the butt. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.